Bioshock is a game that came out when I was 7 years old that I never played because I was too busy playing Feeding Frenzy, and I was scared of the big drill man on the cover. I'm a frog, and I've always heard good things about Bioshock, especially with me being a Dead Space fan. It seems like there's fan-base crossover there. So for this video, I decided to play through Bioshock for the very first time and document my journey as I fought drug addicts, did a million hacking minigames, and uncovered the mysteries of Rapture, which I will be spoiling, you have been warned. Let's hop in. My journey began in 1960 with our hero smoking a Lucky on an airplane across the aisle from a pregnant woman, then looking at a picture of his family and holding up a present from said family. To Jack, with love from mom and dad, would you kindly not open until... The plane crashed and Jack swam to the surface, which is where I take control in a pretty cool visual. Now's probably a good time to mention, I was playing on the original version of Bioshock and not the remaster. But especially for 2007 graphics, this game looks awesome. I swam to and walked up a lighthouse type place where inside was a big statue and a message, no gods or kings, only man. As both a king and a frog, I take issue with this. I went into a submersible that descended underwater at uncomfortably fast speeds, then watched a slideshow from Andrew Ryan summarizing his anti-government, anti-religion, pro-capitalist worldview.
Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God.
It's very obviously supposed to be the objectivist philosophy of Ayn Rand.
There's going to be a female in the White House as president, and how do you feel about that?
I wouldn't vote for her.
This is followed by one of the best reveals in any game I have ever played.
I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture.
So this Andrew Ryan guy built his own underwater city called Rapture, where him and like-minded individuals could live out his philosophy free from governments and churches and Emma Goldman. I enjoyed the scenery, spotting a construction worker, a big whale, and Pharaoh's Fortune Casino, among other attractions. I was ready to dock and begin my new virtual life in this underwater utopia. Alright, an Irish guy named Atlas called me on the radio and told me to follow his instructions to stay alive, which I followed because he asked me very politely and because he sounded like a leprechaun. I grabbed a wrench, destroyed rubble, got attacked by a fire couch, and had my first combat where I beat a splicer to death. I'm assuming he's called a splicer because he has a history of cheating speedruns. Atlas had me shove a needle into my arm, which gave me magical powers, and this was something I knew literally nothing about going in. I thought Bioshock was just like a horror shooter, but after being greeted by a drill monster and little girl and traveling down a water slide, I had a second combat encounter where I could now electrocute people before bashing them in the face with my wrench. Just like Atlas told me, the old zap and whack is highly effective. I found a woman crying and singing to a baby carriage and tried to console her, only to catch a pipe to the face. Then after killing her, I realized she wasn't even singing to a baby, but to a revolver. Libertarian moment. Despite now having a revolver, I continued using the wrench because it's the greatest wrench of all time. Along with my electric powers, it let me toaster bath the bad guys. I found an audio log from Diane McClintock. Wherever she is now, I'm sure I can fix her. Periodically, when wandering Rapture, these strange flashback sequences would happen, which I expected to be part of some big reveal later. I climbed on rafters and found a little girl sticking a dead body with a needle over and over, and learned that if you attack one of the little girls, then a big daddy will appear and drill you, but not in the Gunnery Sergeant Hartman way, but in the YouTube demonetization way. After wrenching and digital bathing a couple more splicers, I got flamethrowered by a turret and set off alarms, which caused a bunch of splicers to come at me in a fight that had me pretty spooked until Atlas came on the radio and told me Andrew Ryan was behind this, which was confirmed moments later by Ryan coming on the TV and asking me if I was KGB or CIA. A bunch of splicers tried busting out glass to come get me, but before they could, Atlas opened a door allowing me to escape to the medical pavilion, the second stage of the game. In this area, there was a Vita chamber to my left, which I tried to enter and couldn't, don't know what that's about. I found my first vending machine where I could buy health and ammo and whatnot, and I found a disabled security bot which I could hack through a minigame that took me a bit to get the hang of. I was not good at this at all at first. Completing this gave me a robot friend who would fly around with me and help fight the bad guys, which sounded cooler than it actually was. He didn't seem to help me a whole lot. One splicer tried getting me by camping around a corner, but thankfully I spotted her and delivered the Bioshock and face bash. I found a Tommy gun, which I proceeded to use to mow down splicers while my drone continued to do absolutely nothing. I came into a new area where a machine gun turret was shooting at me, so I tried to hack it. I guess I misunderstood what the overload tiles meant because I thought it would overload the turret and destroy it. Instead, I was taken down to like 1 HP, and after shooting the turret a couple times to blow it up, I was killed by the explosion for my first death. I thought I'd go back to my last save, but instead I teleported back to the Vita chamber and was good as new. I figured there had to be some penalty for this, like you lose money or maybe you're limited on how many times you can be revived with it, but nope, you just get free respawns, which is unlike any other shooter I've ever played. Except Halo 4 Spartan Ops, but we don't talk about that. I found an ammo machine where I had the option to hack it for better prices, but I was way too slow. My second attempt was even worse, and my third attempt wasn't much better. It was, unfortunately, very over. I continued exploring, which led me to a supply closet where I then found an automatic hack tool that could hack the ammo machine on my behalf. We are so back. I found an audio log from Andrew Ryan ranting about people hacking the vending machines and how it goes against the spirit of Rapture. But that sounds to me like a big ol' skill issue and that he should have invested more into cybersecurity. Instead of being like Andrew Ryan, you can invest in your cybersecurity with the help of today's sponsor, NordVPN. There are lots of scary people on the internet, hackers, doxers, redditors, you name it. One of the simplest things you can do to protect yourself is setting up a VPN and not falling for the you just want a free iPad scam like young Frog did when he was like 9, true story. NordVPN does more than just set your location elsewhere. There's also features like Threat Protection Pro, which will prevent you from going to stuff like fake shopping websites and phishing websites. It'll also scan files you want to download for malware. Another feature, the Dark Web Monitor, will alert you if your login credentials, including passwords, have been leaked on the dark web. So for example, if my password YouTubeFrog123 ever leaked, I would know. Oh wait. Michael, can you cut that out? Go to nordvpn.com/frogarchist and sign up for an account to get a pretty big discount on a 2-year plan, plus get 4 extra months on top of it. And Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you try it and don't like it for some reason, you have a whole month to cancel and get your money back. It's a great deal, so whether you don't have a VPN or you do and want to switch, check out NordVPN using my link. Thanks again, NordVPN, for sponsoring this video. Inside this back room, I had to avoid the eye of a security camera. While it wasn't looking, I sent a corpse into a furnace, which got me a physical tonic called Hacker's Delight, which gives me a bit of Eve and health when I successfully hack something. I crawled inside a room where I found a new power, Incinerate, which I immediately got to try out by setting oil on the ground on fire, turning a few splicers into barbecue chicken. The ground told me that aesthetics are a moral imperative shortly before I learned the security wing I needed to get into was blocked by debris. So I went back to a previous area, and after bashing a turret to death because I was scared of hacking, I was kind of lost and couldn't tell where I was supposed to go next. Based on previous instances of me being able to interact with the environment, I thought maybe I could melt this big block of ice with my Incinerate power, and sure enough, it worked, opening a whole new area. I picked up a shotgun off the floor, which was tied to the light switch, and before I knew it, I was surrounded by splicers that I could try out my new shotgun on. I saw keys hanging through a window and tried to electrocute them to myself, which didn't work. I found a dentist's office, which was handy because I chipped a tooth in real life a couple weeks ago, but all the dentists were dead and all they had was a telekinesis power. After unequipping Incinerate for telekinesis, this was much more effective at getting the keys down through the window. I had to pick them up off the floor though because I didn't realize you had to hold down the telekinesis button. Hacking still didn't come naturally to me at all, but I would be aided going forward by Speedy Hacker, an engineering tonic. I used Kinesis to throw explosives back at Nitro Splicers, went back to the debris where I used Kinesis on this guy's bombs to take out the debris, shotgunned a drone, robbed a safe, watched a doctor give a woman lip fillers on her stomach, then lit up said doctor like Ayla Secura in episode 3. The machine gun is my favorite weapon by far. I went through a door where I saw a Big Daddy burn to death, leaving his little girl alone. Atlas told me she stole his Lucky Charms and I should kill her to harvest her Atom, while a lady named Tenenbaum told me to save her, which would also get me Atom but a lesser amount. Being the softy I am, I chose to forego the increased Atom and power and rescue the little girl instead of harvesting her.
Liberal, 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 happy fun, la la la.
With Atom, you can buy upgrades at Gatherer's Garden machines. I purchased the Combat Tonic Armored Shell to reduce all physical damage, and the Physical Tonic Eve Link to let me get Eve and health from health kits. On my way back, I came across another little sister, this one accompanied by a living Big Daddy. Big Daddies don't attack unless you instigate, and I didn't think I stood a chance, but f*** it, we balled. I died. Utilizing my shotgun and electric powers I got in my next life before rescuing this girl as well, and using the Atom from her, I returned to the machine where I permanently upgraded my health. I had explored every room in the medical pavilion, so it was time to move on to Neptune's bounty. I witnessed nautical nonsense right away in Neptune's bounty. This sensitive young man was strung up for being a snuggler. There was a passed out Big Daddy. I wonder what he's dreaming about.
What a forward young man you are! My goodness. How
sorry.
much weight?
Even so, this area did get back to basics with more hacking, getting destroyed by Rosie the robot, ungrooming his little sister, and murdering magical crackheads. I got an Eve upgrade to give me more magic for my powers, and Wrench Jockey to do more wrench damage even though I hadn't used the wrench in over an hour. As a reward for saving the little sisters instead of harvesting them, I was gifted a teddy bear with a whole lot of Atom, and I used this Atom to get another plasmid slot where I re-equipped Incinerate. I also got Machine Buster to do more damage to machines, and another health upgrade. I hacked a lock and found a hidden room where a fella failed an electric resistance test, then I carried on to my main objective.
Who can blame a lady who craves variety?
Nope. I talked to a crazy guy named Peach Wilkins through a door until I was ambushed by a gymnastics lady who I could do very little damage to until I was saved by a robot. My next objective was finding a research camera. As I searched and fought more splicers, Atlas told me over the radio that Fontaine, the bad guy who got the city addicted to Atom, had been dead for years and everyone knows it. It was at this point that I guessed the game's twist. I'm Fontaine. I brute forced another Big Daddy with no idea how to take him out efficiently, saved his girl, and for the first time of many in this playthrough, I set off a camera alarm which sends security robots at me for an entire minute unless I pay for an early shutdown. I followed this up by setting off another camera 5 minutes later, and I don't even know how. I made it inside an interrogation room where I finally found a camera. Using the camera, you can take pictures of different kinds of enemies to give you bonuses against that enemy type, hints about what their weaknesses are, and you unlock upgrades. For my main objective, I had to take pictures of 3 different spider slicers, as they're called. Insert Nickelback photograph joke. I was ridding a desk of all its valuables when I got jump scared by a spider slicer and proceeded to drop my entire load of ammo on her, then photograph her corpse. I didn't even want to fight anymore. I was all about taking pictures with my new camera. Atlas called me again and told me about how he had to save his wife and child. Strangely, he kept saying child instead of son or daughter. Maybe that's just an Irish thing. I backtracked a bit and photographed the Cyclops from the SpongeBob movie, then killed it as I cowered behind the safety of a gate, got jump scared by another spider slicer, killed another Big Daddy before realizing he didn't even have a girl with him, so it was completely pointless, and I returned to Peach Wilkins with pictures of dead women and spider slicers like he asked. Atlas warned me that Peach was crazy, then sure enough he started rambling about how I was doing Fontaine's bidding, then him and his people attacked me. I had no weapons in this fight except my trusty wrench and my camera, which I used to take a great photo. I was able to hack a turret, which I think is what killed Peach because I can't find me killing him anywhere in my footage. After eliminating James and the Giant Peach, I found my first weapon upgrade station where I chose to upgrade the machine gun's damage because it was my favorite gun by a mile, like I previously mentioned. Atlas told me it should be smooth sailing from here. Does he know? And I was on to Smuggler's hideout. Upon entering, I got shot by a turret and my guy moaned. I drank enough alcohol to get drunk, then flipped a switch to unlock a submarine containing Atlas's wife and child of an indeterminate gender, except a bunch of splicers showed up. After burning and shooting them, I made it to the submarine, which exploded, killing Atlas's family. I tried telling Atlas that there were other fish in the sea, but this didn't seem to cheer him up. But that was it for Smuggler's hideout. I was now on to Arcadia. Andrew Ryan came on the radio and called me a parasite while I explored Arcadia, which is a garden environment. I saw memories of couples having PDA in the park and found a guy calling for help who I ignored at first to grab cash off an altar to a deer god. I found a grenade launcher, then followed the guy who needed help's trail where he disappeared in front of me. This was my first encounter with a Houdini splicer who, despite being magic, was still no match for a Thompson. Side note, by this point in the game, I was an absolute pro at hacking. I found a hidden crawl space which had a safe inside with a bunch of nonsense, and a connected room had electric wires hanging around that helped one of the splicers ride the lightning, just like the Megadeth album. I watched a lady get burned alive by someone who wasn't me, then found another new machine, the U-Invent, which would let me craft my own specialized ammo. I made anti-personnel pistol rounds. I swam in the lazy river, repeatedly jumped up a rock until I grabbed a magica potion, walked directly past a Houdini splicer who somehow didn't notice me, but at least I was able to photograph her alive without her knowing. I wasted all my anti-personnel rounds on a Big Daddy because I'm stupid, sapped the brain rot out of this girl, and had a ton more Atom, which I used to get every kind of tonic slot, upgrade my health, and my Eve. Go on a tangent for a second, this game's world building is fantastic. I love the audio logs that are hidden around. They give you insights into Andrew Ryan's worldview, the thoughts of different citizens, and backstory as to what exactly happened. It elevates the whole underwater objectivist city thing, which by itself is a great environment for this game to take place in. I'm 100% sure this isn't an original thought to me, and lots of people have said it over the years, but this is one of the most interesting settings of any game that I've played. I do, on the other hand, hate the security cameras and the drones that come at you, but this is, of course, a skill issue. It was at this moment that I learned you're only allowed to carry $500 at a time, which is someone who likes to hoard all his money in case he needs it, only to never spend any of it. This offended me. I checked out this mechanical device only to get flamethrowered in the face. I went to the Arcadia glands where I collected chlorophyll solution, which reminded me of the mitochondria as the powerhouse of the cell. In the rolling hills, I encountered another big kahuna burger, but there was nary a little sister in sight. I should have left him alone, but instead I tried out my new grenade launcher on him, and it was everything I hoped for. I tried going to the metro, but Ryan started pouring in mustard gas, so I had to visit Girl Dexter's laboratory, but she wouldn't let me in unless I collected roses first. While searching, I found another shrine to Moloch, upgraded my pistol damage at another upgrade station, set off another camera, tried hiding from the drones to no avail, set more people on fire, and grabbed a new tonic called Security Evasion to make cameras and turrets take longer to see me, which boy did I need. For some reason though that I don't remember, I didn't equip this. I delivered roses to the square hole girl, then made my way through her lab until voyeuring her through the window as she got gassed by Andrew Ryan. In her lab, I picked up a chemical thrower weapon that, spoiler alert, I didn't use a single time, and I got the formula to invent the Lazarus vector, but this required me to leave Arcadia, but not before trying out my new armor-piercing machine gun rounds on a Big Daddy. With that, I was off to the farmer's market. A man creates, a parasite asks, where is my share? Actually, parasites don't talk. I found the Evelink 2 tonic, which is an improvement over the Evelink 1 tonic that I had to make first aid kits restore even more of my blue bar as well as health. I discovered the secret to security cameras, which is one armor-piercing round to the eyeball, or hacking them, but shooting them was more fun. Shooting dig baddies was also more fun now that I was more powerful.
Be not afraid.
In this area, I had to activate an anti-bee mist, then rush in and steal their honey. I didn't really understand what was happening at first though, because I was not paying attention. I was listening to a video about Chris Chan, and before I knew it, the room was full of bees again and I was getting eaten. After a few more runs around the room with the mist turned on, I'd collected enough bee enzymes. Next up was going to the Whirly Winery to collect distilled water and shoot lightning bolts from my fingertips, Saul Goodman style, and more splicers. For the first time, I used the hypnotized Big Daddy power, which gave me my own Big Daddy to watch my back and disembowel bad guys. I was done in the farmer's market and returned to Arcadia, where Paul Ryan sent more security robots after me, but fortunately this is base and they won't fly in. My next task was to create the anti-plant killing mist and defend the lab from invaders while it processed. To do this, I hacked turrets, sealed the lab door, and hypnotized another Mr. Bubbles to protect me. I accidentally electrocuted him though, and he started trying to kill me instead of the splicers. Similar to when you accidentally step on your dog, I had no way to explain to him that it was an accident. I could have just killed the Big Daddy, but instead I reloaded my save because I was determined to have my own protector that I could cower behind the whole time. After a few minutes, the Lazarus Project was deployed and Commander Shepard was revived, letting me go to the metro and visit the next area, Fort Frolic. Fort Frolic is where I really started getting Bioshock. Like, I was having fun in the previous areas, but this is where it just clicked and my fun pressure spiked. I came across a fortune-telling machine called Epstein. Epstein, the fortune-telling machine from Bioshock? There were also slot machines that I didn't play because losing money gambling is more fun in real life. I saw a couple health packs sitting through glass and had the brilliant idea to break the glass with my wrench. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. I made my way to the metro to already advance to the next area, but when I arrived, it sank underwater and a gentleman named Sander Cohen came on the radio telling me to forget about Atlas and Ryan and coming out with him in Fort Frolic. But before letting me in, he tested me by sending waves of splicers to crawl on the ceiling and try to kill me, but at this point, I was no longer scared of anything that was happening and one-tapped each of the bug people. Sander Cohen invited me inside Fort Frolic and told me to go to the Fleet Hall to watch a very special performance. After hacking every machine I could find and failing to bust open more glass for a tonic, I obliged and in the Fleet Hall found a Birdman playing on a piano before he exploded while I was looking the other direction, ruining the entire sequence. After taking a picture of his corpse, getting cornered by even more security drones, staring intently at a poster of a red-haired woman, and hanging up the picture I took, I was rewarded with a crossbow that I also didn't use a single time in this game. Colonel Sanders told me to explore Fort 11 Herbs and Spices until I found a few more specific guys to kill and photograph. This is one of the neatest quests in the game because you're truly cut loose to roam and do this in whatever order you want without much direction, and Fort Frolic is massive. So I explored the Fort Frolic shopping mall where I went into a flooded bathroom occupied by stone people, the cocktail lounge had a juicy little safe, the Sophia salon had almost nothing of value, I shot a splicer to stop him from going into the cocktail lounge after hours, then set off yet another security camera. If I was taking a shot each time I did this, I would be dead. At another power to the people machine, I got the shotgun damage increase. I went into an icebox where I found frozen enemies and freed one with my incinerate power, but instead of being thankful, they tried to kill me. Even for an atom-fueled crazy person, this seems irrational, so for that reason, I'll have to give Bioshock a final rating of 0 out of 10, game sucks ass. As I continued walking, my guy suddenly realized he has hands and froze solid. I was taunted by an eyes wide shut person before breaking out, killing him and photographing his corpse. I returned to the atrium where I watched a Big Daddy fight an army of splicers in a scene that would be similar to Batman fighting a group group of 10-year-olds. They did basically nothing to his health. Nonetheless, he was also no match for a Thompson, and at this point, I had completely lost my respect for big daddies as tough opponents. This was doubly true when I discovered my secret weapon for them, electric buckshot, which not only does more damage to them, but also immobilizes them. Piece of cake. Last chance to look at me, Hector. I went into Rapture Records to find a copy of Saturday Night Wrist, but instead I found a guy sitting in a chair with a bomb strapped to his chest. When I opened the door to leave, I was greeted by the last guy I needed to photograph. I walked up a staircase and got jump scared by an 8-year-old, and after fighting off both a big chungus and security drones from yet another camera, I finally arrived at my ultimate destination, Pharaoh's Fortune Casino, as foretold in the opening sequence. I set off another camera. You have to be I went to hang up the last picture, but instead Liam Cohen sent a bunch of splicers at me, which I summarily massacred, and after exploring a bit more, I posted the photo, then started blasting Cohen himself until his soul shall be lifted nevermore. That was the longest individual chapter of the game for me, but I was now free to travel to Hephaestus. I mentioned Dead Space in the intro. This was an environment, this whole level, that really felt Dead Spacey. It gave vibes like something you'd see on the Ishimura or Sprawl. There also seemed to be a big difficulty jump between Fort Frolic and this level compared to the game prior, so although I didn't know how many levels were in this game, between that difficulty jump and the fact that this level was about breaking into Andrew Ryan's hideout, I had a feeling I was getting somewhere close to the end. This level was also a lot more linear than Fort Frolic. Fort Frolic was this game's peak as far as free roaming goes, not saying this level, yeah, that's a bad thing, it's just different. I reduced my machine gun's kickback, unlocking its last upgrade and letting it assume its ultimate form. I had so many options to choose from at the Gatherer's Guard machines, now it was like a whole buffet. I tried using a Circus of Values machine only to get hit by a live grenade before a kid ran up behind me and said it's just a prank, and then I went into a room where Nosferatu was playing with the lights. I found an EMP device that needed to be finished, which involved collecting different parts around the map, including wire clusters that you can only get off dead big daddies, but like I said, at this point they weren't much of an issue. I constructed the bomb, turned a wheel, used the bomb to destroy a big core, and made it to Rapture Central Control. Ryan started yapping about the truth and how I was a disappointment to him, and he suggested that Atlas was trying to take over the city. I went into the back office where "Would You Kindly" was written in big red letters along with a bunch of pictures, kind of like the Pepe Sylvia meme. I finally met Andrew Ryan, who explained that all my memories were fake and I hijacked the plane and forced it to crash. I was being controlled by the phrase "Would you kindly?"
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Full disclosure, before playing, I knew about "Would You Kindly" and that it was like mind control, but I didn't know any other details. Like I joked about, I genuinely, while I was playing, ended up thinking that the big twist was gonna be I'm Fontaine with like my mind wiped and either Atlas or Ryan using me for nefarious reasons. I was kind of right.
A man chooses. A slave obeys.
And a frog hops. Andrew Ryan was quite the dapper fellow, but not so much after I bashed his head in with a golf club. Then the real reveal happened when Atlas shrugged off his persona and revealed that he was actually Fontaine the whole time. And because of me, this evil guy now had control over the entire city. He was gonna kill me, but with the help of Little Sisters, I found an escape route to Olympus Heights. I woke up in Tenenbaum's safe house where her and all the girls I rescued were hanging out before breaking out into the sewers while Fontaine taunted me over the radio. Periodically, these pop-ups would happen and my maximum health would go down as part of Fantano's mind control, so that's less than ideal. I'd rescued every single Little Sister from the big dogs to this point, and I wasn't about to stop now just because the level got a little harder and I was now down to 0 health packs. This is where cash hoarding comes in handy, especially in an economy like Rapture that presumably doesn't have inflation. I found a middle-aged couple dancing in their apartment, a very wholesome scene until I murdered them both. I got a new tonic that made it so if I stayed still long enough, I would turn invisible. This made ambushing unsuspecting enemies a lot more fun. One thing I was making sure to do was explore literally every part of each level. I didn't want to leave any stones unturned or corpses unphotographed. A big daddy was chasing me and I tried to run back into an apartment where I had mine set up, but he shot me in the back for the first death I had in a few hours of playtime. I grabbed a few dollars and saw a message left for your mother and took a stroll up to Fontaine's apartment where I raided his kitchen for Cliff Bars and a vial of Lot 192, which restored my health back to what it was before Fontaine started taxing it. The trade-off now being I couldn't control my powers, but Tenenbaums told me I could cure this by getting a second vial of Lot 192. This meant that after fighting some mild resistance on my way out of the apartment and the subway, or whatever this is, I had to go into the next stage without being able to select powers and with the ones I had being activated completely randomly. It was now late night at the Apollo Square and the audience was not happy to see me. Calm down, child, I'm not a Minecraft YouTuber. I cleared out an apartment building looking to snuff out any forms of intelligent life because I'm the good guy. guy, and after finding a dude having a rough Friday night, I found the cure to my power problem, which I didn't show a lot of while it was happening, because yeah, it was pretty easy to work around and didn't last all that long. Now with my powers back, I could resume shooting everything and not using my powers. And there was a lot of shooting because this level was enemy after enemy non-stop, which makes sense because individual splicers were no threat to me at this point. It did get pretty repetitive though. I explored Fontaine's home for the poor, which the name alone is a great bit of storytelling, showing how Fontaine built support for himself against Ryan. And I don't discriminate, poor or not, these splicers were going to die. I went on an elevator ride that took me to a bathysphere, which I could take to Point Prometheus, named after the terrible Alien prequel that came out 52 years after when this game takes place and 5 years after Bioshock itself. The stage had one story development that I was not expecting at all, but first I went to the main hall where I almost caught up to Fontaine, who apparently after his picture was taken took a flight to Turkey. The only weapon upgrades I had left to get at this point were on the weapons I don't use. I searched a dead Big Daddy, and Tenenbaum had an insane idea to turn me into a Big Daddy, which is the whole point of this level, going around gathering Big Daddy components so that I can become the biggest of daddies. Hello, brother.
Hi, Frog.
This level takes place in the labs where they're created in the first place, which is a pretty interesting environment. I had no clue how a Big Daddy works, like if they even were people, which apparently they are. After clearing the lab, I next went into Little Wonder's educational facility, where immediately after the door opened, I triggered a security camera. I didn't even care about the drones anymore. If they were shooting me, I just ignored them and kept doing whatever I needed to do. Big Daddy, more like Dead Daddy. It took me over 20 minutes into the video to come up with that one. I found the next part to a Big Daddy suit in a library, then murdered the librarian for asking to see my library card. I found the other suit pieces in a completely different Big Daddy lab to the previous, and I chose the Rosie look in honor of this dog whose name was also Rosie. Rest in peace. I'm now a Big Daddy. Hear me ribbit.
Ribbit.
I now had to get a little sister by banging on the wall with a wrench. Wake the fuck up! I was ready to go to the next level, but I got a pop-up saying I missed rescuing one of the little sisters in the area. And I had no clue how because I literally explored every inch of the map. So I spent the next 15 minutes going back through everywhere I had already been until I found a fellow Big Daddy with a little girl whose soul I needed to cleanse. Now for the Proving Grounds, the penultimate level. And Proving Grounds is an extremely simple level with zero exploration or anything. All you're doing is escorting a little girl as she saps Adam from people and splicers try to murder her. You have to keep her alive. I guess on hard this is probably pretty tough, but I kept the girl alive this whole time and I had zero issues. There's not much for me to talk about. Another Big Daddy tried to kill me, but I Big Daddy mogged him. Then I was presented with a bunch of stores and explicitly told this is it and I should spend all my money. And I was kind of taken aback by that. This game wrapped up a lot faster than I expected. The last level is called Fontaine, and I'm sure you can guess why. Unless you're stupid. Fontaine turned himself into a monster man and I had to sap the Adam out of him. He runs around and tries to kill me, then I take more Adam out of him, and I am aware that I was playing on normal instead of hard, but still, this was incredibly easy. Because I saved all the sisters, they gang up on Fontaine and help kill him, and a cutscene plays where Tenenbaum talks about how I return to the surface with the girls and raise them as daughters. It's a sweet ending, I guess, but...
A family.
That's it. I messaged in my Patreon chat, just be Bioshock. Extremely anticlimactic ending, LMAO. Final thoughts on Bioshock though, really fun game. I love the setting of Rapture and the world design and world building. Graphically, it's a beautiful game, especially for how old it is. It's almost 20 years old. The gameplay is fun. I didn't think it felt dated or anything. It did get somewhat repetitive towards the end of the game though, where progression kind of just stops and the only change is more enemies start spawning. But maybe that's just because of how I was building my character with not using a whole lot of plasmids and mostly just shooting. Really fun game, even though I made fun of the ending. Like, I don't hate the game because of that. Overall, I'm gonna rate Bioshock a blue frog. If there's interest, I'll consider doing Bioshock 2 and or Infinite videos. Shout out to my patrons, as always, for their support. Consider becoming one yourself. I'll catch you next time. A frog chooses, a toad obeys.